Can you all remain standing for a moment of silent prayer and meditation? Thank you. We may all be seated. Good morning, colleagues. Let me take the honor of greeting our Honorable Premier, MECs, the Chief Whip, leaders of political parties, whips of parties, members of the Provincial Legislature, our guest, the people of Gauteng, members of the media, you are all welcome. Thank you very much for taking interest in matters of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. I am aware that we'll be visited by some guests. I'm sure they are being still processed outside. As soon as they are here, we'll recognize them properly. They are all welcome. In terms of apologies, I have received the following apologies. Honorable Mpisi and Honorable Fuchs, who are not well, we wish them speedy recovery. Honorable Bosch, who is attending to party business. Honorable Du Plessis, who's going to arrive late. Those are the only apologies that have been received by the office. In terms of announcements, in accordance with Part 4 of the Conflict of Interest Code and Disclosure Framework, for members of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, members are required to disclose particulars of all their regrettable interests within 30 days after opening of the legislature or appointment of the member. Noting the above, all members are required to complete and submit the declaration of interest to the Office of the Integrity Commissioner at their earliest convenience and not later than the 21st of March. All members who still find it hard or difficult to fill in the members' register, they can actually request a one-on-one with the Office of the IC. Thank you very much. Let me also, although in absentia, but I will speak about Rule 53, when members of the public have arrived as well, which talks about the conduct of members of the public. When in the precincts of the legislature, members of the public must conduct themselves in an orderly manner. Members of the public attending a plenary meeting of the legislature or a committee meeting may not disrupt proceedings and must observe the directive of the member presiding over the House or chairing the committee meeting. The member presiding over the House or chairing a committee meeting may order a member of the public to leave from a meeting and leave the precincts of the legislature when he or she disrupts proceeding or is involved in any misconduct. And that will include answering the phones that will disrupt or disturb the proceedings, clapping of hands, participating, singing, and doing all those noisy acts that may disrupt our proceedings. That is Rule 53 of the Standing Orders. And I also wish to indicate that now that most of the members, especially those that are new, have also been inducted, I want to remind members that we also have a rule on the dress code. So wearing of tegis is not allowed. And I want to repeat, wearing of tegis is not allowed. So in future, don't mislead members, Honorable Mkwebo. So in the next meeting in our next sitting, I will not allow any member who will come with tegis. So I'm warning you in advance, especially now that we have all been inducted. Thank you very much. Is there a member who wishes to make an announcement? Honorable Maslela, an announcement. There's a difference between member statement and an announcement. I know that you want to do a member statement. Okay. Honorable Maslela.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Speaker, we as the EFF in Gauteng wish to boldly inform our previously and currently marginalized masses who are plagued by constant load shedding and water shedding of the mother of all shutdowns, the EFF national shutdown scheduled for the 20th March 2023. Allow me to acknowledge the zest and the determination of our ground forces.
Honorable Maslela, it's not yet time for that. We are still coming. That's why I said, I know that you submitted your member statement. So an announcement is separate from a member statement. I will call you again later. Thank you. So if we don't have an announcement, we can continue. MEC statements in terms of Rule 79, subsection 1, there is none. Member statement in terms of Rule 81, subsection 1. I will start with Honorable Malima.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and greetings to the House at large. In accordance with Rule 81, Sub-Rule 1, I, Honorable Paul Malema of the ANC, tables the following member statement on the prioritization of township economy. Madam Speaker, one of the biggest ANC achievements in this term is the development of the Township Economic Development Act, TEDA. That was unanimously adopted in this August House last year. The purpose of the ANC-initiated TEDA is to ensure that township businesses fully participate in the economy of this country, which has always been reserved for a selected few. The ANC manifesto is clear on our priorities and what it is that we seek to achieve. Transformation of the economy remains one of the priorities that we are committed to achieve against all odds. While we are aware that there is continuous resistance against leveling the playing ground, we will not be discouraged nor distracted. Madam Speaker, in the past week, the Premier of the ANC-led Gauteng Provincial Government delivered his State of the Province address, outlining the commitments of the government to the people of Gauteng. In his address, he highlighted the focus on township economy and the steps that the government will be taking to ensure that TEDA is fully implemented. We are particularly pleased as the ANC with the 60% of the 34 billion rands goods and services budget being committed to support township initiatives. These commitments are not only honoring the social contract the ANC have with the people of Gauteng, but also ensure that the ANC-led government addresses the real challenges facing our people. We urge township businesses to make use of all avenues that are open through TEDA. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Masilela, it's now your turn.
Thank you, Speaker. The EFF in Gauteng notes with concern the deliberate collapse of the public health system by the ANC government, which has now propelled the community of Tembisa to take to the street the demand accountability and service delivery from the health facility of the government of less than 18 months, the ANC. Speaker, a medical facility that is supposed to render services to the entire Tembisa township that has estimated population of at least 2.5 million people. And further, the services surrounding areas in Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni and Tshwane has now been rendered useless, in effect, a pathetic health hazard in its current situation. We as the EFF call upon the MEC of Health, Nomantunko Moraloko, to realize that truly what is happening at the Tembisa Hospital is nothing but an arrogant and blatant betrayal to the unprivileged black masses of our communities and all races in general who require health services from this facility. Honorable Speaker, before we become part of Lesufi FISA mayhem, which will obviously lead to a situation resulting in loss of more precious lives who have now nowhere else to turn for medical assistance. The EFF strongly urges that let our people not have another Nkomo Ralogo FISA mayhem, following the Premier's playfulness and particularly a lazy government that refuses to take accountability on simple things like procurement of skinny jeans at Tembisa Hospital. We remind you and the people of Gauteng of one of the key mandates of the legislature, which is oversight as prescribed in Section 125 of the Constitution. In your growing Gauteng Together commitment, Speaker, the government of the day said, we committed ourselves to strengthen the capacity of the state to deliver quality service to our people. It is not obvious that this was just an empty promise, not a commitment. What is that Tembisa Hospital acting CEO, Dr. Mohlame Mathabate, under the oversight of this current blatant lazy government, will be comfortable to say? The facility is overwhelmed as the number of patients needing help exceeds its capacity to offer assistance. There we go again, straight to the Nkomo Ralogo beatboxer approach. This is a direct influence from the man on top who does nothing but play a lot of video games, to an extent that the daydreaming is now a hobby in the Lesufi Fixer school of thought. All he sees now is panic buttons and empty airspace of his imaginary drone and helicopters.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Your 2 minutes is over.
Thank you.
Honourable Makhane.
Thank you, Speaker. Member statement in terms of Rule 81. In many of our struggle songs and debate we would have in this House, we speak of human dignity and the need to uphold it. We talk about the need to liberate our people, those previously disadvantaged and marginalized. We talk about bringing change to our people. It is years later, and one often wonders, what exactly are the things we are saying to our people? And what is it that we are saying to them? Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the EFF recently had a picket outside the Department of Education, demanding placement of learners who were not yet placed because schools had no space to accommodate them. Yes. Another year of the system trampling upon the rights of our children who we constantly vow to protect. Even today, there are still learners who have not been placed yet. On the 23rd of February 2023, member Njakazana Khadebe of the EFF caucus attended an oversight at Katlehong North, Kumalo Clinic, and was met with bathroom facilities that had only half of the toilets working and functional, computers that were not fully functional, and a roof that was damaged due to water leakage. The basic human rights of our ordinary people continue to be trampled upon by the government, and we continue with our lives as if nothing is wrong. Our consciousness has somehow escaped us, and maybe it is so because we have got the luxury to afford private health care. In his address, the Premier spoke about improving public health care and wellness facilities within our communities.
Time up. Honourable Adams.
That is not 2 minutes.
Honourable Speaker, Honourable Premier, MEC of Social Development, people of Gauteng. The ACDP notes and joins all NGOs, faith-based organizations, civil society at large, and individuals here at home and abroad in celebrating World NGO Day. It was yesterday on the 27th of February. World NGO Day was inaugurated for the first time internationally in the year 2014. Since then, the NGO community worldwide acknowledged this international calendar day, which is dedicated to recognizing, celebrate, and honor all non-governmental and non-profit organizations and the people behind them that contribute to improving conditions for all in society. The NGO and faith-based organizations, along with the rest of civil society, have been at the forefront of realizing and implementing fundamental programs, especially during the times such as the COVID pandemic, to feed the hungry and uplift the most vulnerable, amongst other things. The ACDP views this sector's contribution as invaluable, as it has in most cases filled the large voids left by government, especially from the Social Development Department, to restore the dignity of our people by providing them with the most basic services. Honourable Speaker, the treatment of NGOs and FBOs, registered and unregistered by government officials, remains an ongoing concern for the ACDP. The delays in payments from government, a lack of support from the Department of Social Development, and politics that drive and decide funding allocations. The ACDP calls on the Department of Social Development to treat NGOs and civil society organizations, especially faith-based organizations, with the respect they deserve, and to ensure that it roots out any corrupt activity related to the allocations of the funding. Please let us not only recognize, especially the churches during the upcoming elections, when political parties will be flooding our churches for votes and thereafter forget them. The status quo cannot be allowed to continue if we want to realize a strong partnership between government and this important sector in our society to bring an end to poverty, unemployment, inequality, crime, and the giant of gender-based violence. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable Alberts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Gauteng ANC government under Premier Lesufi has made plans for the future of Gauteng's energy needs in the form of the establishment of solar power generation. And given the dire state of Eskom, this province deserves prudent and decisive action. Yet there might be a problem with the Premier's plans. The question is whether the province may legally generate and distribute power according to the Constitution. According to the President Ramaphosa, only local government may do so. The President stated this in his answering affidavit to a constitutional challenge to load shedding due to load shedding by a group of political parties and other interest groups. The President stated furthermore that he has no legal duty at all to end load shedding, as there is no duty on him or any of the national departments to ensure electricity generation or reticulation. By way of logic, this goes for provincial governments and their departments as well. So basically, on this interpretation of the Constitution, the President of this beautiful country has abdicated despite the existence of general legal duties on him. For instance, the preamble clearly states, the preamble of the Constitution, that amongst others, we must improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person. But by the President's logic, the national and provincial governments has nothing to do with energy supply. That, by the way, is the hallmark of a modern country. So Premier Lesufi will have to make a choice. Either support the abdication of the President's duty towards the country and abandon all plans to generate and distribute electricity, or openly contradict the President and explain to this House why this provincial government has the constitutional right to generate and distribute power. We believe the President is wrong. Do you, Premier Lesufi? Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes member statement in terms of Rule 81, subsection 1. Motion without notice in terms of Rule 120, we have none. I want to check if is there a member who wants to give a notice of a motion in terms of Rule 121. There's none. Thank you very much. The first item will be Premier's question time in terms of Rule 138. Let me call upon Honourable Ntsege to ask a question to the Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Recently on JJ's show, JJ Dabane's show, the Premier indicated that 67,000 people had applied to be admitted for rehabilitation, either by themselves or through their families. With that in mind, what is the registration status of the state-owned farm that the Premier pronounced after his inauguration? Please describe the 6-month-long rehabilitation program the Premier alluded to. What type of rehabilitation treatment will be provided on the farm? What is the capacity of the farm to take people who want to be rehabilitated? And what type of skills and manpower have been identified and will be required to ensure that the farm rehabilitates people and equips them with the relevant skills they can use afterwards? Thank you, Speaker.
Honourable Premier.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Member Ntsege. Good morning to all honourable members. Honourable Speaker, the issue of drugs in our township needs our urgent attention. It needs our collective efforts and need to ensure that we spare no resources to salvage the future of our children. If we can't fight crimes, an entire generation might be wiped, and the future that we are building, we might build it for people that might not be there. So our joint commitment to fight drugs must be strengthened by all institutions that are available in our country, from government, NGOs, and all community-based organizations, so that we leave no room to those that think they can wipe the future of our young people. As indicated in SOPA, we are now expanding our farm in Cullinan at Dr. Fabian and Florence Treatment Center and other drug facilities with an additional 1,351 beds. These are new beds to manage the huge demands that we are receiving. To date, the Department of Social Development have seen, attended, worked with, and assisted close to 75,000 young people that are going through the difficulties of drugs. I want to once more thank the thousands of parents that have called our drug fighting call center, and we want to reassure them every call that was made will be followed, attended to, and ensure that every child is given the necessary assistance that they need. Our state-owned farm that Member Nsegh is referring to is Dr. Fabian Florence Ribeiro Treatment Center. It's situated in Cullinan, approximately 30 kilometers east of Tshwane. The facility is on a farm and is registered in terms of Prevention and Treatment for Substance Abuse Act 70 of 2008. The current registered bed capacity of this farm is 200, and it admits service users with substance use disorders in the inpatient treatment program. Plans are currently afoot to increase the capacity with extra additional 200 beds during the 2023-2024 financial year. The ultimate plan is to have this registered facility to have 1,000 beds and to be the center for drug rehabilitation. In terms of question 2, the 6-month rehabilitation program comprises different phases, because children or youth that come to our center, they are at different levels and different stages. But from our planning point of view, the first phase of the rehabilitation programs takes place at the inpatient treatment facility, and it includes detoxification services and primary treatment for a period of 9 weeks. A multidisciplinary team consisting of medical practitioners, social workers, psychiatrists, occupational therapists, caregivers, child and youth care workers, and nurses provide the primary treatment, which entails comprehensive treatment interventions such as individual therapy, counseling, group therapy, health lectures, skills development, recreation, sports, and many other programs. They refer service users to centers of excellence for accredited and formalized vocational skills training and startup skills development programs at the inpatient treatment facility. After completion of the primary inpatient treatment program, recovering service users are then referred back to referring agencies to continue with the aftercare programs provided by social workers or in a form of support groups such as AA and NA. Those who qualify are referred to skills development programs provided by our centers of excellence. The following centers of excellence are accommodating service users in recovery for a period between 3 to 6 months. Amongst these centers are as follows: Father Smangaliso Mkachwa Center of Excellence in Soshanguve, Bokamoso Center of Excellence in Small Farms, Everton, Shilembe Center of Excellence in Papsfontein, Ekuruleni, Believers Care Society Center of Excellence in Terfontein, Igusasaletu Center of Excellence in Alexander, Bambizandla Center of Excellence in Carltonville, in the West End. In terms of question 3, Dr. Fabian and Florence Ribeiro Treatment Center render inpatient treatment for various substances of abuse. Treatment services are in line with the legislative mandates, and the minimum norms and standards for inpatient centers are taken care of. The intervention is rendered within the therapeutic milieu, which ensures that needs of everyone are considered within the context of service users' rights and the formulation of individual treatment plan. The duration of the therapeutic programs at Dr. FNF is 9 weeks, which includes medical detoxification, orientation, treatment program, and life skills program. In terms of your question 4, Dr. FNF Treatment Center is currently having the capacity to accommodate 200 beds. The Department of Social Development is funding 14 additional MPOs in this regard, which are also providing additional 1,063 service users. Plans are currently underway to expand the bed capacity to almost 1,000. In terms of your last question, suitably qualified staff are employed at the skills development centers that I've mentioned, Shilembe, Bambisanan, Father Mkachwa, and other centers. Shilembeni has entered into an MOU with the Gauteng Community Education Colleges for partnership, preparing users to be registered and be part of the community college for those that want to progress with their studies. We have also taken a decision as this government that those that qualify to further their studies at university, we will provide them with free bursaries after going through the rehabilitation program. And that the Bukamoso established a partnership with Mafube Africa Construction Company. This partnership has created 300 jobs for our young people that need assistance. All centers have continued to establish partnership with relevant stakeholders in the delivery of youth development. We are of the strong view that we have put the proper systems in place to unleash our energy in fighting drug abuse. We are of the strong view that our youth deserve our protection, our love, our care, and we want to thank all the NGOs that have partnered with us and worked with us in this particular campaign. We are quite convinced the struggle against drugs will be defeated, and our young people are going to be given a second chance in life so that they can continue with their lives. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Sakhe, do you have a supplementary question?
I've got a supplementary
short
comment, Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Speaker, I just want to say to the Premier, thank you for the response, but the farm I'm referring to is the one he talked about in his inauguration speech on TV. I can't remember the name, but it starts with an S, not Cullinan. And that's what I wanted to know, how far the process was with regard to the registration. And secondly, I wanted to say to the Premier, in terms of arresting drugs, rehabilitation, as I said in my SOPA debate, is actually sorting out an issue after it's happened. The first priority should be to arrest drugs on the street where people have access to them, because you can rehabilitate people, go back to the communities, and they still have access to the same drugs, and then people will relapse. And then also my concern is the Premier spoke about a 9-week program. In his initial program, he talked about 6 months. So the statements are different, and that's a bit concerning. Thank you so much, Speaker.
Honorable Premier, do you want to respond to that?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Thanks, Member Ntseche. Indeed, our commitment is to create as many facilities as possible. There can be farms, there can be walk-in centers, and there can be hospitals. Because those that are using drugs, Madam Speaker, are using drugs at various levels. Others are hooked, deeply so, others at the initial stage, and others at an advanced stage. So in order to provide that kind of support, you'll utilize all forms of facilities that are available at our disposal. So I just want to urge Member Ntseche that let's not politicize this matter of drugs. It's a serious matter. We need to ensure that our young people are protected, taken care of, and given the necessary support. And I think it will be wrong for me to go in a public space or enter a public debate on how we're going to deal with drug lords. As soon as you announce how you're going to deal with drug lords, they will abandon their work and go on other things. So the absence of explaining how we want to deal with drug lords does not mean there's no plan to deal with them. That's the terrain of the law enforcement agencies, and they're assisting us to ensure that at all times the drug lords are attended to, arrested, and we want to appreciate also those people that are giving us the relevant information about drug lords. We will deal with drug lords, Member Nseh. We are not only obsessed with assisting our young people, but we are also obsessed in identifying those that are destroying our children. And that is why I'm very passionate and appreciative of a program that is playing on television every Sunday evening. That is dealing and identifying drug lords. That program deserves our support because they're doing a work that will ensure that communities don't sell drugs again. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Mukwebo.
No, Speaker, don't be harsh on me, but because I know what I should have already done in terms of Rule 138, subsection 9 to the Premier.
No, I was just warning you.
I'll give him a chance to
No,
use the Rule 138.
Continue, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Premier, please, can you bring the House in confidence? I'm concerned about the issue of the drugs, which Member Nsegesh is raising, that the people go back to the community after they utilize those drugs. The issue which I want to ask you, Premier, is which areas in the province you are targeting, and the township, and the rate which you want to achieve those promises you made in your State of the Province address. Thanks, Speaker.
Honorable Premier.
Thank you so much, Member Mukwebo. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. We are targeting all areas in our communities. There is no area that we must not target because drugs have indeed destroyed our communities. To have almost 75,000 young people who need assistance, it's a serious indictment to all of us that we have abandoned the struggle to protect our children. And you can imagine those that don't have the capabilities to even touch base with us. So this number can be far above the 75,000 that we are currently utilizing or accessing or interacting with. So I agree with you. We need to broaden, and also we need to give them alternatives so that they don't go back to do exactly the things. MEC responsible for safety is changing our recruitment processes for our peace wardens to say those that are still young, agile, fit can also be recruited when they finish their rehabilitation program to assist us during that program. MEC responsible for environment is also trying to recruit those that are coming out of our rehab centers to be part of a cleaning campaign so that when they finish their rehabilitation program, they don't go back to do nothing. We are also partnering with the areas that I've just indicated, Fathers Magalisho Center, Bukamuso Center, Believers Care Society Center, Kusasa Letu Center, so that they can train them. We are entering the space of solar panels. We believe we can train these young people in installing solar panels when they come out of the rehabilitation program as part of our solar farm, so that they can be part and have the necessary skills to work on this particular thing. So we are taking care of those young people. Because if we can't take care of those young people, we've defeated the mission why we wanted to take them out of drugs, because they will go back there and do drugs again. We have to ensure that they are properly skilled, properly supported, properly cared for, so that they don't revert back to those old tricks. Thank you so much, Madam.
Thank you, Premier. The next question, Honorable Randall to the Premier.
Thank you, Speaker, Honourable Premier, members. In his address to the NCOP taking Parliament to the people on the 18th of November last year at the Ugu Sports and Leisure Centre, Premier Lesufi, you said, and I quote, "We are putting aside an amount of 650 million to reclaim all our spaza shops in the townships from foreigners, so that all these spaza shops can be owned by South Africans." Close quote. This obviously also in line with the unanimously adopted and passed Gauteng Township Economic Development Act of 2022. My first question, can the Premier please explain how and when this reclaiming process will be rolled out by providing a list of priority focus areas? Question 2, can the Premier please explain how this decision can potentially ignite xenophobic attacks on foreigners owning spaza shops in the townships? 3, can the Premier explain exactly how the 650 million for operating reclaiming of spaza shops from foreigners was determined? 4, can the Premier explain how South Africans in townships will be supported by the Gauteng Provincial Government to own and sustainably operate their own spaza shops? And lastly, can the Premier explain who will be the beneficiaries of spaza shops reclaimed from foreigners in the townships? Thank you, Speaker.
Honourable Premier.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thanks so much, Member Randall, for your question. Let me clarify it up front. To reclaim does not mean you are taking sponsorship as government and controlling. I want to clear that part. To reclaim means that what used to belong to South Africans must go back to the hands of South Africans. And that's the important aspect with it, and give all the necessary support to South Africans. And it does not mean you are xenophobic. These shops of Mguni, Shabalala, Mabusela, that made us who we are today in this particular house, must not be taken over by people we don't know, who will use them for wrong things such as money laundering and other things that you do. We want to ensure that South Africans that want to enter that particular space of ensuring that they have sponsor shops, those sponsor shops are supported, taken care of, and ensure that they prosper. So any illusion, therefore, to reclaim means government taking over or nationalizing sponsor shops in Gauteng is a wrong illusion. It's to bring them back to South Africans, and South Africans be supported to ensure that they provide the necessary answers that they have. As indicated in our State of the Province address speech, we are of the strong view that our townships are our new gold. We are aware that the reasons our sponsor shops are struggling is because they don't have collective buying power. We have now finalized the financing model to allow township businesses to have their own bulk buying mechanisms through the establishment of a township-based warehouses and distribution centers. As such, the ones we have already launched these 2 centers in Gauteng and Mamelodi. So in terms of question 1, the Department of Economic Development is implementing a township retail program, mainly focusing on developing township retailers and suppliers through local manufacturing enterprises. The program does not include shops that are not owned by South Africans, but supporting more than 20,000 sponsor shops that are owned by South Africans. And this will be done through our manufacturing and warehousing program. In terms of question 2, I think I've already responded it, that we are not intending to advocate or assist any form of xenophobic attacks on the basis of taking care of South Africans. This is South Africa, and South Africans come first, and we'll support South Africans, and we are not apologetic about that. Any other person that is rightfully coming outside of our country but well documented to be in our country and operate business, there's nothing wrong. They will also be supported. But we want to support South Africans to stand on their own and be supported by their own government that they love so much and they expect so much from the government that they have put in place. We will continue on that particular path. In terms of the 650 million referred to, it's our program. The Department of Economic Development has set aside 6 million, but we also expect investments that are coming from the private sector to supplement this. But in terms of our SOPA statement, we indicated that 60% of our budget will be utilized to support township businesses, which will be way above the 650 million that we have set aside. In terms of your last question, the retail program is focused on supporting 20,000 township-based retailers, including mostly sponsor shops during the financial year 2023-2024. The program is expected to create almost 20,000 jobs per annum over the MTF period. In addition, the township stores are expected to source local products as part of the drive to stimulate local manufacturing. The program is aimed at providing the following support to retailers: refurbishment of shops, installation of shelving, installation of point-of-sale systems, installation of inventory management system, supply of stock on revolving loan facility, bulk buying discounts. The inventory system will be linked to this process, and centralized marketing and promotion, so that many people should differentiate the shops that are owned by South Africans and the shops that are not owned by South Africans. In addition to the above-mentioned support, retailers will also receive all support programs so that we can be in a position to train them, assist them to access funding, but most importantly, provide the necessary mentoring. Our commitment to convert from paper the Township Economic Development Act that was passed by this House to be a living document so that it can assist our people is a commitment we are not going to betray. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Randall, do you have a supplementary question?
Supplementary comment, thank you, Speaker. I am glad that the Premier referred to investments from the private sector that would come in. As we all know, this country has recently been grey-listed together with Nigeria. That means more expensive loans, that means less foreign direct investment. Premier, and I think we must just keep in mind this is the reality that we're facing. We cannot create expectations that we cannot commit to at the end of the day. People are looking at us, they need hope, they need us to show that we care, but we also need to be realistic. Thank you for clarity. I take your answers and I will work on that further. Thank you, Speaker.
Okay. Premier, you want to make further comments?
I thought Member Mukwevo might want to add some question, but it is quite clear this one is beyond his imagination, so he can't participate in this debate. Sorry, Member Mukwevo. We should not celebrate grey listing. I think, no, Emma, we should not, Member Randall, we should not celebrate grey listing. It's an unfortunate turn of events, but it's a window of opportunity to strengthen our anti-money laundering proposals. We're proud as this, from this side of the House that we are saying South Africans must migrate to a cashless Gauteng, so that we don't have to deal with these money laundering problems and money laundering challenges. But the grey listing, it's something that is going to make business difficult for all of us, whether you are on this side of the House, on the other side of the House. If you are a South African, you are going through difficult. They are not going to say you are coming from opposition party, you cannot be grey listed, or you are coming from the ruling party, you can be grey listed. So it needs our collective efforts to defeat it. It's a window of opportunity. We need to pass the legislation that we need to pass at National Assembly. We need to ensure that we enforce all our money laundering legislation. And that is why we are tough on sponsor shops that are not owned by South Africans, because that's the center of money laundering, where people are not banking their money and people are utilizing that money to sponsor other activities outside the country. So our commitment is very clear. Grey listing is a window of opportunity to strengthen our laws and reposition our country to be a better, efficient country that can trade with our partners across the globe. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. We're now dealing with questions for oral reply to the executive in terms of Rule 134, starting with Honourable Badenhorst.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, my surname is Badenhorst. To the MEC, Council for Social Development. MEC today is not guaranteed to all of us, but surely where there is life, there is a need for every human being to be treated with dignity. And having this in mind, MEC, can you please tell the residents of Gauteng what happened to the budget that was allocated for school uniforms in the previous years? Number two, did any of our learners receive uniforms this year? And if so, at which school? And how many sets of uniforms were distributed? Number three, why has it become a challenge for the Department of Social Development to contribute the school uniforms to all needy scholars on the department's registry, and with the increasing number of child-headed homes in our societies, how many of these children have been assisted how many have been assisted by the department during the back-to-school season, sponsoring them with school uniforms, stationery, and food resources? Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable MEC.
Thank you, Speaker. And thank you to the member. With regards to question 1, the response is as follows. The department awarded a contract for the supply and delivery of school uniform for the period of 12 months. The contract commenced in 2020-2021 financial year. The department spent 78.9 million of the school uniform budget in the 2021-2022 financial year, and the remaining funds were reprioritized to fund food relief expansion program and to augment our food bank's operations, and also to maintain a number of community nutrition development centers that were funded to respond to food insecurity crisis after the COVID pandemic and also the July 2021 unrest that further contributed. During the current financial year, the department requested a deviation and procured school uniforms which were handed out during the back-to-school period through RFQ in line with the deviation submitted. As it pertains to question 2, the Gauteng Provincial Government on an annual basis has a back-to-school campaign wherein members of the Executive Council are deployed to various schools across the province to assess their state of readiness for the year and also to engage local stakeholders for the effective functioning of the school. As part of the back-to-school campaign, the Gauteng government, through the DSD, distributed school uniform and dignity packs to vulnerable and orphaned children. The department distributed 5,000 school uniform packs during this campaign, which were procured through RFQ as an interim measure, whilst the department finalizes on awarding the tender due to be finalized by end of March. The full list of the detailed schools will be provided accordingly. However, just in summary, I can indicate, Madam Speaker, that in Ekurhuleni, 900 beneficiaries would have benefited, in Johannesburg 500, in Sedibeng 1,700, in Swane 750, and West Rand 1,100. And then as it pertains to question number 3, with the application of Circular 21, the department had to engage relevant stakeholder departments to ensure that the procurement of school uniform is done through cooperatives as much as possible. In this regard, engagements took place with the DTI in terms of local content and additionally with the Gauteng Treasury in terms of ensuring that compliance is adhered to. As a result of the engagements, the decision was to create a panel of service providers made up of SMMEs and cooperatives that will be utilized for a period to ensure that the cooperatives are not left behind, as it is the mandate of the department to promote the participation of cooperatives in the program. As indicated above, the tender was advertised and the department is finalizing on the process towards awarding. As it pertains to the last question, a total of 5,000 beneficiaries benefited as part of the Back to School campaign, we indicate in the interim, whilst we finalize on the tender processes to ensure that the additional demand is met. And with regards to stationery and food sources, the Gauteng Department of Education has made provisions for learners to receive stationery and food as part of its comprehensive school program. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Perenos.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, according to my knowledge, there was no school uniforms that were distributed for this year. And I'm asking about this year. Now, and the thing is this, Speaker, if any school has received the school uniforms, why is it so difficult to give me the proof so that we can see which schools got and which other schools didn't get? Because I say, in Tshwane, I'm from Tshwane, Speaker. in Tshwane, there was no school uniforms distributed. And if I can go through the whole Gauteng, I'm going to find that there's nothing, because the stakeholders were complaining about the tender that doesn't get to them, because the Department of Social Development has certain people that gets those tenders, and the others are left behind. So, Speaker, for the record, can these people just do what they're supposed to do and give the children the school uniforms? Because even the food nutrition at schools are very poor, Speaker. Children go to school and we know that most of the people does not work. They don't have breakfast in the morning. So when you get to school, at least you'll be able to have a plate of food to get you through the day, but it doesn't happen. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Ntsage.
Speaker, thank you. I rise in terms of Rule 134, subsection 7. I'm concerned about the response from the MEC, because of the 122 million rand that was returned to Treasury, part of that was the underspending on school uniforms, and this program has underspent for 5 years. So I want to know where the 5,000 school uniforms were budgeted from. Thank you.
Honorable Mukwebo.
Thanks, Speaker. Rule 134, subsection 7. I think you don't respond, MEC, like your Premier. My question always that direct in this House. Don't be all over. And then now, I'm going to be direct to you, because we are public reps voted by people of this province. We want to do unannounced oversight or oversight. Where did you distribute the school uniforms? You tell us so that we can go and touch and feel these kids. Because these kids, they speak to us in the townships where we move around, working our political work. That is the concern. Don't say we're giving them all over like your Premier. Hey, we're dealing with drugs all over the province. Then all over, where's all over now? So we want to do oversight. Be specific, MEC, and tell us where you did it so that we can go and check. Thanks.
You have made a point. Honorable MEC. Thank you, members. Thank you. Honorable members, can we allow the MEC to respond? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Can you allow the
Let's also-
MEC, please?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Perhaps we should also welcome the energy that this question has raised. Madam Speaker, as indicated, the allegation that because you did not see the uniform, therefore does not exist, it's rather odd. We just indicated in the response that the Gauteng government has an annual program called the Back to School campaign. As part of this Back to School campaign, members of the executive committee were given school uniforms and dignity packs. Additionally, we also indicated that we gave a summary of the regions and the amounts that are to be given, and that the full detail of the schools will be submitted to you. We just indicated.
Honorable members, thank you. Thank you. Honorable members, remember, we need to be unanswered. We need to record the responses. So if we are preventing the MEC from speaking, Honorable Mukwebo, we are waiting for a response. Over to you, Honorable MEC.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Maybe let me slow down my voice so that they can hear better. Because what they are raising has been responded to. I indicated that a full list with the schools and the amounts will be handed accordingly. And that for the sake of this sitting, instead of going through all the schools, I simply gave a regional distribution of those schools. So that full detail will be indicated, and we'll be more than happy for you to go to those schools. I further indicated that only the 5,000 could be catered for because the department is finalizing on its tender. As you know, this takes some time. There has to be the advert, so it has been advertised. We are now finalizing on the process of awarding the tender, which will be done by the end of this financial year, as indicated. So that will be concluded, and that list will be given to you accordingly. So, Madam Speaker, therefore, the issue around the schools, we have indicated to, and they can have that full list so that they're able to go through it and not accuse us of being all over when we simply addressed the issue that they will be given this. As it pertains to the issues around the underspending, the questions further, as part of our response, we indicate that there was reprioritization that had taken place, and we share the concerns that the member has. And that is why we are finalizing on the tender so that this does not continue to be something that the department has to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable MEC, can I request that in terms of your responses, they be provided via the proceedings so that they are recorded properly? Thank you. Thank you, honorable members. We're now going to deal with written questions. Honorable Khatebe, please, thank you. We're now going to deal with written questions for oral explanation and tabling in the House in terms of Rule 135, subsection 5. There are a number of questions, HL 001, 002, 003, 004, 004, particular issue in terms of Rule 135, subsection 5. Not to respond to the question, but explain why the questions were late. HL 001, HL 0. Honorable Lolo, who could just leave the Chief Whip. There are questions that were not responded to by yesterday. They were only responded to.
Madam Speaker, I will want to apologize first in the House about all the questions that were not responded to. We did try, but I think these ones, I'm not sure how did we lost it in the system that we have. But Madam Speaker, we are going to submit all of them because I've answered them. Then I'll submit them to yourselves.
What I said was they were responded to, but they were late.
Yes.
The second set of questions is SD 001, SD 002, SD 003, and SD 004. Honorable MEC, Social Development. Honorable Kekana, go to your seat, please. Let's allow the MEC to respond.
Sincere apologies, Madam Speaker. The questions are taken some time because we needed to be sure of the information that is provided. We must, however, indicate that we do apologize, and the questions have been submitted accordingly.
Honorable members, please. Just lower your head. Honorable Mukwebo, please. I am asking this question because Honorable Chief Whip, honorable members, honorable members, can we have order, please? Honorable Masoleng, the hand is not allowed on this question time. Honorable members, remember we are holding the executive accountable. If you make noise, we can't even hear the response. No, please. Who said you must speak, Honorable Masoleng? I never said you must speak. Honorable MEC, can you respond, please? There are no hands that are allowed during this question time, please.
Thank you, Premier. In terms of that set of questions, they were submitted because they did also form part of the questions that we received from the Portfolio Committee. So they were responded to, but we will send additional copies to the House accordingly. Thank you.
Honorable members, if you feel that it's late for you to respond, the rules allows you to actually request extension to the speaker. So in future, use that rule instead of not responding at all. Then the next set of, Honorable Masilela. There are the next set of questions. You know, honorable members, please, I beg your indulgence. The next set of questions, honorable members, the next set of questions is ARD, and, whoa, members, please. Honorable Khateb, I'm going to throw you out of this house. Please, I'm going to do that. You can't sing in the house. Honorable members, can you have order? Please, I beg you. No hands are allowed during this question time. Can I therefore request that, let's not play for the gallery, members. Let us be serious. The people of Gauteng are watching our behavior. Can we be orderly? The next question, set of questions is ARD and Environment 001, ARD Environment 002, ARD and Environment 003, and ARD Environment 004. MEC?
Sorry, Madam Speaker,
get the
those
response?
are the questions that I was referring to that were submitted to the Portfolio Committee. So it was for that second set that I was indicating on with regards to, and I indicated that we will forward them accordingly to the Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you.
Honorable, let me also advise you, because if the portfolio has asked those questions, they have a right to receive the response, but the House as well. Remember, it's not all of us who sit in the portfolio committees. So if through the proceedings, we can actually receive those questions. Thank you very much. Colleagues, we have received an urgent question in terms of Rule 135, subsection 4. Honorable Masuleng to MEC for Education.
Thank you, Speaker. I am Malabhe Masuleng of the Economic Freedom Fighters, hereby in terms of Rules 126 and 135 place an urgent question for oral response to the MEC. Understanding that the Department of Education and the district at municipal level have a responsibility to ensure that all learners are placed at schools within the radius of 5 kilometers from their place of residence. However, in Tshwane, there are learners who are still not placed, and this has put stress on both learners and parents. We have contact numbers of parents, by the way. These learners have a right to basic education, and with this in mind, will the MEC respond to these following questions? Number one, when will learner Sinakho Kuhle Mandulo Sipokazi Kunene be placed in grade 8 at 8 High School, as this is the only school that offers Zulu as a second language in Tshwane South. The rest offer Afrikaans. Number two, and when will the following 13 learners be placed as well as a matter of urgency, since the academic year started in January 2023? Learner number one, Uyena Masimini, he should be in grade 7. Alukhanyo Mbuli, grade 10. Jabulani Mabena, grade 10. Yengeni Mahapa, grade 10. Bulisiwa Dlamini, grade 11. Angel Mtweni, grade 11. Amangile Pete, grade 8. Botlhale Mutua, grade 3. Sinobuniso Ngube, grade 3. Neo Ishmael, grade 2. Kushem Jila, grade 6. Bandile Chanawar, grade 8. And Lindiwe Mashangu. Question number 3. How many learners are still to be placed in schools across the province? And the last question, when will all learners in Gauteng be placed, and can the department commit itself today that from next year, 2024, such problems will not be experienced again?
Honorable MEC.
No, thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I will respond to the questions. Okay, the first question, Sinaguguhle Mandulo Spogazi Kunene. The response is that we do not place a learner based on language alone. We place learners firstly through a feeder zone. Secondly, we follow the sibling. Thirdly, we relax some.
Honorable Mukwebo, can you have order?
Firstly, as I'm saying, Speaker, through you, we place learners not based on language, but firstly on feeder zone, sibling, work address, 30 kilometers and beyond 30 Ks. So in this regard, this learner has been placed in a school, but the parents have chosen a different school and are insisting on that school. That is 8 SEG, but we are not placing based on that. And secondly, what you need to understand, the constitutional obligation says that there should be a learning facility that is accessible to a child or a school. And that's exactly what we have done. We have ensured that there's an accessible learning facility for Ms. Sipokazi Kunene. And that's the primary mandate of the department. With regard to the second question of those learners, those are in between grades. And this honorable member, thank you so much. You've already brought in a case for us to justify why this online system works. You have demonstrated to us that with the online system, we would have been able to know where are the spaces, because these are in between grades. So in between grades, the parents can go to the school or they can go to the district. What I'm urging you to do, like an honorable member and a leader, you need to advise the parents that they should be patient. Where the children are placed, if they're in school, wait. If these kids are in school,
honorable members want to listen to the response. We also have an interest in the response, please.
No, I wanted to respond to the beauty queen there. That is all right. So, I never mentioned a name. Mara, Waizeba. So, Speaker, can I continue?
Please, don't respond to a person, but respond to the House.
I'm happy that with this question, because it provides a case for this online system, that it would have been able to help us with the spaces in between grades. But however, the process for children who are in between grades that are not placed, as you say, these learners are not placed, it's not a problem. We will look into ensuring that they should be placed if they are not in school yet. But if they are in school, allow them to remain in the school until we have an opportunity to transfer them to their preferred schools. Because at the center, Speaker, the parents have preferred schools. And that's their argument. And that's why it might seem that there is no spaces. And that goes to the third question with regard to grade 1 and 8. We have placed all learners according to our records. And what do I mean? We have given access to every single learner who's in grade 1 and grade 8, access to a school or a learning facility. That's the Constitution. Now, it's down to parents in accepting those spaces for their children. It is not the department who has not created an opportunity for a child to be placed in school. The last one, I wish I was a prophet with regard to commitments. But what I can say is that we will continue to place learners even next year like we've done this year, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MEC. We have responded to the question. Can we ask the Secretary to read the first order paper?
Speaker, follow-up question, please.
Honourable members, please.
I'm raising my point of follow-up question.
Can I refer you to Rule 135? Can you read the first order paper?
Speaker.
Question that you asked. Yeah, it's an agent question. It's an urgent question.
Secretary, can you read the first order?
I was only advised.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Health Portfolio Committee International Study Tour Report of Madrid in Spain on the 28th October 2022. Thank you.
Honourable Dr. Dikhamela.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Good morning, everyone in the House. The Portfolio Committee on Health and Wellness has a constitutional obligation, according to Section 114, subsection 2, to provide mechanisms to exercise oversight over the provincial executive. The committee undertook this trip so that it can enhance its obligation for implementation of its constitutional mandate, providing guidance to the Gauteng Department of Health and Wellness on the national health insurance. The report will highlight the findings from the health system in Madrid from the lessons drawn, and there will be recommendations that will be sent to the Department of Health and Wellness in Gauteng. Honourable Speaker, I request that the House consider the parts of the report that I will not be able to read here now be considered as read. The objectives was to share and learn best practices on the effective methods of exercising oversight over the Department of Health and Wellness in Gauteng, to enhance the committee's understanding and knowledge of effective models for the implementation of e-health, to increase access to health for all citizens in the Gauteng province, to learn best practices on the infrastructural management or maintenance of health facilities. On the findings, the national health insurance in Spain, the committee observed that Spain consists of 17 regional health services, including National Institute for Health. All autonomous communities are responsible for healthcare in the following areas: public health, planning and organization, health management and financing. Each independent community has its own health service, which is administrative and managing body responsible for all health centers, services and facilities in its region, provincial administration, town councils, and any other intra-regional administration. The healthcare is also provided in the following groups: the foreigners not registered or authorized as residents in Spain may receive healthcare under the same conditions as Spanish nationals, provided they meet all the criteria that is mentioned in the report. Persons entitled to asylum or subsidiary protection also get healthcare in Spain's applications for international protection, that is the asylum. They also receive victims of human trafficking. They also access healthcare in Spain. On universal health coverage, all Spanish citizens and foreign legal residents in Spain are entitled to the health coverage by the national health system, which is financed with public funds. Foreigners who are not registered or authorized as residents have the right to health protection and health care under the same conditions as Spanish nationals. Free of charge, essentially the only payment is the pharmacist for medicines and medical devices dispensed at community pharmacies. There is no co-payment for hospital pharmacy services, but however, there is pharmaceutical co-payment by household income. On National Health System basket of benefits, the common one, it comprises of all prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and rehabilitation activities carried out at health and social health centers, as well as emergency medical transportation. It is fully funded by public funds and without contribution by the user. Honorable Speaker, pharmaceutical co-payment is expected from the following people or group of people: pensioners with income of less than 5,635 euros per year and others. On e-health in Spain, Spain has a digital health strategy in place. The aim of the strategy is to empower and involve people in their health care and facilitate their relationship with the health. Some of the areas of action through this strategy include, among others, monitoring of health threats and risks, promotion of active population health, prevention of diseases and disabilities, and management of processes that support the performance of health function. Each person is uniquely identified in the national health system, as each has a unique personal ID, electronic clinical records, and electronic prescription. The e-health is essential for assisting in exchange of relevant clinical information across the national health system. Patients and health professionals have access to the patient's clinical information, and the patients can see who has accessed their clinical data. E-prescription. Citizens can obtain their e-prescription from any pharmacy in that country. Release physicians for economic administrative overload of paper prescriptions, particularly in relation to transferred citizens from other autonomous regions. Visits to various hospitals were done, and recommendations can be found in the report, which has been circulated to all honorable members in this House. The waiting times is 15 minutes or less in hospitals, while waiting list for surgery in private hospitals is less than 3 weeks, whereas in public hospitals, sorry, Honorable Speaker. Okay, let me go to the findings. On adoption, Honorable Speaker, in accordance with Rule 117, Section 2, subsection C, read together with Rule 164, the Health Portfolio Committee hereby recommends that the report on the International Study Tour Madrid, Spain be adopted by the House, taking into considerations the committee recommendations made in this report. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Is there a seconder to the report?
Yes, Speaker.
Oh, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I rise to second the report.
The report seconded. All those in favor say yes. Yes. All not in favor say no. No. The ayes have it. The report is adopted by the House. Can we have the next order?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Public Accounts Standing Committee Oversight Report on the report of the Auditor General of South Africa to the Gauteng Provincial Legislature on the financial statement of the following social and economic cluster 17 reports. Department of E-Government, Gauteng Provincial Treasury, Gauteng Infrastructure Financial Agency, Department of Roads and Transport, Gauteng Management Agency, Chief Fleet Management, Department of Economic Development, Gauteng Tourism Authority, Gauteng Enterprise Propeller, Dinokeng Trading Entity, Cradle of Humankind World Heritage, Gauteng Gambling Board, Gauteng Liquor Board, Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, and Department of Education for the year ended 31 March 2022. Thank you.
Honorable Kanyile.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Madam Speaker, I table the oversight reports of SCOPA on the reports of the Auditor General of South Africa to the Gauteng Provincial Legislature on the financial statements of the 6 departments and their entities as called out by the Secretary. I table them collectively and therefore request that the parts of these reports which I will not read must be taken as tabled. SCOPA could not table all its reports by the end of 2022 because of the delays in the consideration of such reports, which were caused by the massive changes in membership of political parties which happened during that time. Gauteng Provincial Treasury, as one of the beacons of good financial management and accountability, together with its agency, the Gauteng Infrastructure Finance Agency, have retained the unqualified with no findings audit opinion. Included in this portfolio is the Gauteng Department of E-Government, which has also recorded the unqualified with no findings audit opinion. This is an improvement from the previous year and a huge improvement from the qualified audit opinion it received in the 2019-2020 financial year. Gauteng Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs has also retained the unqualified with no findings audit opinion. Turning to the next portfolio, both Gauteng Department of Agriculture and Rural Development and Gauteng Department of Economic Development have regressed to unqualified with findings audit opinion. 2 of the entities in this portfolio have retained the unqualified with no finding audit opinion. These are Gauteng Gambling Board and Gauteng Growth and Development Agency. In the same portfolio, Gauteng Enterprise Propeller has retained an unqualified with findings, whilst the rest of the entities in the portfolio have regressed to unqualified with findings audit opinion. These are the Cradle of Humankind World Heritage Site, Dinokeng Trading Entity, Gauteng Liquor Board, and Gauteng Tourism Agency. Whilst Gauteng Management Agency retained the unqualified with no findings audit opinion, the Gauteng Department of Roads and Transport within the same portfolio has regressed to a qualified audit opinion, and Chief Fleet Management has not moved out of the qualified opinion it has received in the previous year. It must be noted that of the oversight reports we are tabling today, it was only in the case of Gauteng Department of Roads and Transport and Chief Fleet that we held a public hearing to gain insight on the matters of qualification and to discuss with them what needs to be done to move towards improvement. No public hearings were held in the rest of the departments no public hearings were held with the rest of the departments and entities because their responses to SCOPA preliminary questions provided adequate information for the committee to make its recommendation. Madam Speaker, when we table the remaining oversight reports, we will provide further clarity on the concerns of SCOPA. We, however, have raised our concerns and recommendations in these reports we are tabling today. Let me also indicate, Madam Speaker, that I heard when the Secretary was reading, he included the Department of Education. We are not tabling it today. I thank the MECs and senior officials who cooperated with the committee either by providing adequate responses to preliminary questions raised by SCOPA or during their appearance at the public hearings. I would also like to express my appreciation to the Gauteng Business Unit Leader in the Gauteng Office of the Auditor General of South Africa, Ms. Melissa McCarthy, and her team, including the Forensic Unit in the Office of the Premier, MEC of Finance and Gauteng Audit Services, the Gauteng Office of the Public Protector and the Gauteng Public Service Commission for their invaluable cooperation with SCOPA in the consideration of these reports. The chairpersons of the various committees who were part of the SCOPA process at the beginning of the oversight process of the committee are also acknowledged. A word of appreciation also goes to the staff of SCOPA and their seniors, without whom this process would not have been successful or successfully completed. Finally, the members of SCOPA for their dedication during this process. After due deliberation, the Standing Committee on Public Accounts unanimously adopted its reports on the reports of the Auditor General of South Africa to the Gauteng Provincial Legislature on the financial statements of the following departments and entities for the year ended 31 March 2022. Gauteng Provincial Treasury, Gauteng Infrastructure Finance Agency, Gauteng Department of E-Government, Gauteng Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Gauteng Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, Gauteng Department of Economic Development, Gauteng Gambling Board, Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, Gauteng Enterprise Propeller, Cradle of Humankind World Heritage Site, the Dinukeng Trading Entity, Gauteng Liquor Board, Gauteng Tourism Agency, Gauteng Department of Roads and Transport, G-Fleet Management, Gauteng Management Agency. In terms of Rule 172C read together with 164, the committee presents to this House the above mentioned reports for consideration and adoption. I thank you.
Thank you. Any seconder to the report?
I rise to second.
Honorable Kanyana seconding the report. I now put a question. All those in favor say yes. Yes. All not in favor say no. The ayes have it. The report is adopted by the House.
I heard you say Honorable Kanyile is seconding. It's Honorable Kanyane.
I said Kanyana.
Okay, sure.
You like your name. Okay. No, thank you very much. That therefore concludes the business for today. The next sitting is on Tuesday, the 7th of March, 2023 at 10 hours sharp. Thank you very much. The House is now adjourned. Can I request our guests in the gallery to also stand up?